Right then, here we go. Hello. How do? Welcome to... This is the fourth? Fifth? I can't remember. Welcome to the third, fourth, fifth episode in our weekly stream of the local elections. Thanks for joining me. My name is Ben Walker. I'm the co-founder of Britain Elects. I am the data journalist with the New Statesman, and full disclosure, we are celebrating 10 years of Britain Elects, and what better way to celebrate 10 years than standing for election. So that's what I'm doing this year. Full disclosure, I'm standing as a Labour candidate in Chester City in the Garden Quarter. I don't think that stops me from being necessarily, objective and all that, but there we go. It's up to you to decide. Happy anniversary. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm just going to change the music a bit, something a little bit more chill, because, goodness me, bit excessive that one, but there we go. Yeah, so 10 years, although it really is 10 years in June, July, because I think it was 10 years ago when myself and my co-founder Lily Jane Summers, who's now no longer with us, we were just sort of thinking, what should we do? We should do something. We're nerds, so there we go. Right, now, for those who are new to this, or rather, you're probably not new to this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the week's polls, what's happened, what's changed in public opinion, and then we're also going to be looking at local elections, any seats up for grabs, places to keep an eye on, anything that might interest you. Please do get in touch and let me know what you want me to cover. I've had a few requests already on what to look at, what to talk about, and I'll do that. But yeah, lots to do. So let's get right into it. I'm trying to keep these streams to an hour long because, to be honest with you, the first one was 2 hours and 50 minutes, or 2 hours and a half, I can't remember. 2.5, I think it was. Whether that was in minutes or, half an hour, I can't remember. So I'll try and keep this short and snappy. So if you do have a request, if you do want to leave a comment, if you want to tell me whether I'm right or wrong or whatever, you can do so by either direct messaging me on Twitter. I am twitter.com/BNHWalker, or you can go to twitch.tv/BritainElects and you can join the conversation there. You can also find us on YouTube for some reason. I've done the silly thing of trying to set up a stream on YouTube. Don't know if it works. Don't know if I'm live on YouTube right now, but I'm live somewhere because some people are talking. So I'm making progress. Anyway, let's talk about the polls. What's happened this week? So here is Westminster voting intentions. Here's what's happened over the course of the past few years. You have, of course, this is the Britain Elects poll tracker, which accounts for all the polls, not just a select few. It accounts for all of them. Okay, so in 2020, you had the Conservatives with a 20-point lead, and that was before the coronavirus crisis, it should be said. And of course, the Tories extended that lead as, of course, the UK went into lockdown. But since then, politics has changed considerably. Here's what's happened this week. Right now, we have Labour on 45% of the vote, if, of course, an election were held today. Not sure if it is. Well, of course, we don't have an election being held today, but this is hypothetical polling. This is the sentiment, public sentiment right now. Labour, 45%. This is what the polls are saying today. 45% Labour to the 28% for the Conservatives. That is a shrunken lead from a few weeks and months ago. At the start of the year, you had, of course, the Labour lead creeping upwards as concern about the NHS peaked as well. You had Labour on 48% at the end of January to the Conservatives on 25%. That was a lead, of course, of 23 points. Now the Tories are up to 28%, Labour are down to 45%. And to tell you the truth, some of the commentary surrounding this is a little bit silly. It's almost talking about a fifth-term Tory win. You see a Labour lead of 18 points and you think fifth-term Tory win, what on earth are you being paid? What on earth are you on? But we'll leave it there. 18-point Labour lead, it shrunk. Inevitably, it shrunk. I've explained this in previous streams, but the reason I think we can pin down to it shrinking somewhat is, I think, a rallying in support for the Tory party. You're having the base, those that backed the Conservatives in 2019, those that backed Boris Johnson's Conservatives, a lot of them in September were saying, I don't think I'll vote again. You had a huge surge in support for Labour, and this was primarily, though not exclusively, off the back of those Tory voters now saying they will stay at home. You're seeing a slight rallying in that. Noises on immigration, noises on stopping the boats has moved the dial slightly. And of course, public perceptions of Rishi Sunak have improved as well. And that's indeed pushed the dial to a slightly more tight situation. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's all relative. We are still in landslide territory for Labour at the moment. It's not a how can I put it? It's not a rout it's not a massacre on an extinction level scale for the Conservatives, as we were seeing during the dark days of Liz Truss, but you are still looking at a disaster result for the Conservatives if the polls like this were reflected in a general election. What I think a lot of people are doing is they're seeing movement, right? You're seeing Labour go down from 47 to 45. You're seeing the Tories go up from 24, 25 to 28. And you're thinking, oh gosh, the polls are moving, so maybe things could move even further. I think I guess it's reasonable, but I think it's overstating really what could happen in the next year or so. I think we're still in a period of time, or rather, we are still in an era where the next election is a change election. 2/3 of Britons say the next election is a time for change. How does a government of the day overcome that? And the answer is, I don't think you can. Let's look at the Prime Minister. Rating Rishi Sunak. Public favourability towards him has seen a slight uptick. In February, 27% of Britons had a favourable view of the Prime Minister. That's now moved up to 34%. That's quite a notable recovery, but do note 43% of Britons have an unfavourable view of the Prime Minister, which is down from 47% at the start of March. The Prime Minister still is in negative territory, but to tell you the truth, when you compare to David Cameron, Theresa May, Gordon Brown, or any other Prime Minister of the past, this is okay. These numbers are pretty decent for a Prime Minister of the day. He's still in the net negative, but it's okay relative to general UK public opinion. When you compare it to Keir Starmer, however, this is Keir Starmer's ratings as well, public opinion towards him, share of Britons who have a positive view against share who have a negative, and you will note Keir Starmer still has a net positive. More Britons like the leader of the opposition, the leader of the Labour Party, than dislike him, and I do wonder if perhaps the coverage doesn't perhaps recognise that reality. Now, 38% of Britons at the moment have a favourable view of Keir Starmer, 33% have an unfavourable view. You will note that the number having an unfavourable has drifted, similar to Labour's lead, but it's been drifting since 2021. Only upon the arrival of Liz Truss to the doors of Number 10 did his numbers start to jump a bit. Did people start, I think, to pay a little bit more attention to the leader of the opposition? But when you add these numbers up, 38% plus 33%, what does that make? 38, 48, 58, 68, 70, 71%. You still have 20-something% of Britons not knowing where they stand about the leader of the opposition, potentially the next Prime Minister of the day. And you compare that, I think, 34% plus 40, 43, 34, 43, 40, 50, 60, 73, 83. More Britons, I think, have an opinion of Rishi Sunak than they do of Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer's been around a lot longer. So while Starmer has a lead over Rishi Sunak in terms of overall favourability, more Britons like Starmer than dislike him. More Britons like Starmer than like Rishi Sunak. If you compare that to where are we? If you compare that to previous situations, it is comparatively weak. So right now I'm using this from the start of April, but the data's changed a little bit, but it's mostly pretty irrelevant. Right now, Starmer leads Sunak in terms of favourability by 5 percentage points. You compare that to Ed Miliband against David Cameron, and this I think often gets forgotten quite a lot of the time. There's far too many people who look back on the years as Ed Miliband. Oh, you knew where you stood with him. Oh, he could have been a prime minister or whatever. You don't appreciate just how many Britons had an unfavourable view of Ed Miliband. Even when Labour led the Tories in the polls between 2010 and 2015, David Cameron regularly, actually almost entirely outpolled Ed Miliband. Look at this. September 2013, Miliband was celebrating his 3rd year as leader of the Labour Party and leader of the opposition. David Cameron led him by 15 percentage points in terms of favourability. That's pretty bad. And 65% of Britons had already had a net negative view of Miliband. And no, it's not because of the bacon sandwich. No, it's not because of a simple gaffe. It's you can. This is one occasion where I think the commentators get it right, which is that not the bacon sandwich, the "you stabbed your brother in the back, we got the wrong brother elected." I think that did actually resonate with voters. First impressions matter. They really do, and you've got to sort of, be disciplined right at the start. And when I think of Starmer, I do actually think he didn't really have a chance to set out his stall at the start, because he was, of course, you had the coronavirus crisis, you had lockdown, and really, how do you set your stall out there? I don't think you can. It's a bit of a struggle. So I think what Starmer did, and what I think his strategists have done, and I think it's actually been to his own doing, is they tried to, we're going to oppose this bit of lockdown, we're going to support this bit of lockdown, we're going to do this, that, and the other. And the flip-flop caricature stuck. And I think it's stuck to this day. So first impressions do matter. Miliband flopped in first impressions. Starmer has done okay, I suppose, with first impressions, though not amazingly. But then you compare, of course, once more to David Cameron when he was leader of the opposition. You look at this, David Cameron, when he was celebrating his third year as leader of the Tory party and leader of the opposition, 51% of Britons had a favourable view of him. That compares very favourably when you look at the 29% of Britons who had a positive view of Gordon Brown. 63% didn't like him then, and 32% had a negative view there. And this, by the way, is in the midst of the financial crisis, the credit crunch. Cameron set out his stall and got the dividends. He got those wins. He got those key public opinion wins where he was able to set his narrative about what the economy is, difficult decisions, cuts, austerity, all the rest of it. And that really made 2010 the change election. While it didn't exactly mean a Tory majority, it did mean most of the votes that were moving towards parties that wanted to get Labour out of office. And this is the thing. Starmer versus Sunak, it's quite bad for Labour. If this was a presidential election, you would be writing this up as, yes, it's all to play for. This is comparatively weak. This is poor. Sunak could still win this. But you consider this. You consider that Labour is 18 points ahead. You consider that, according to most pollsters, according to the Britain Elects poll tracker, at least, Labour leads on the economy by a margin of 5 to 10 percentage points. Some polls show it tighter. Other polls show it a little bit more wide. It honestly depends on what you see on Twitter. Some pollsters have a great Twitter game, others really actually don't. And this is why certain polls are being bigged up and others are not. It really is just the prevalence of Twitter and the certain polls on there. But this is the thing. Labour 18 points ahead on voting intention. Labour 5 to 10 points ahead on the economy. Starmer, or rather the Labour leader, 5 points ahead on likability. Where is the weak point there? It's leadership. Okay, that's where Labour needs to work on, because lots of problems there, lots of problems indeed. And this is what I really want to drill in on here: the value of brand Sunak. Sunak himself, public opinion towards Sunak is surprisingly more positive than it is. Well, is it surprising? No, it's not really surprising, is it? 43% of Britons have a positive attitude towards Rishi Sunak, compared to 25% who have a positive attitude towards the Conservative Party. That's from Ipsos UK, formerly Ipsos Mori, by the way. That's a big difference. 67, 2/3 of Britons do not like the Conservative Party. Now, we don't live in a presidential system. Like it or not, we always like to overhype it, don't we? We don't live in a presidential system, because if we did, then Nick Clegg would have soared to a fantastic win over Cameron and Brown in 2010, but he didn't. We are not a presidential system. We are still a system wedded to both two-party politics, relatively speaking, and, of course, the party brand that which you are voting for. So really, if you want to be quite crude about this, the Tory vote share at the next election is going to be between 25% and 43%. Okay? It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. And what does 25 and 43 average out to? That's 30-something. 32, 33, I suppose. Yeah, that's probably where the Tory vote share will be at the next election. And where is it right now? 28%. We should expect some narrowing. We might expect a squeezage of the smaller parties. Let's not forget, I should actually give this a lot more coverage, let's not forget that the Reform Party are polling around 5 to 6% nationally. Whether or not that actually bears out in anything, particularly in this year's local elections, is yet to be seen, though I doubt it. Where are those Reform voters going to go? They'll probably go back to the Tories. That might push the Tories back up to 33%, but that might just be it. That might just be where we will be on whenever the next election actually is. It really is going to be exciting, whatever the case, and we will be here to cover it anyway. Now, let's get to the local elections. So, just to remind you, we have a lot going on, a lot happening this year. On May the 4th, it's exclusively English. Oh, actually, no. I think there are some by-elections happening in Wales and Scotland, but I haven't given them due coverage just yet. But for simplicity argument, this year's local elections on the 4th of May are English exclusive. And I'm just going to be loading up the map now. You have around 4,000 and something wards and 8,000 seats, and there are 25,000 candidates. How many of those are Reform? The Reform Party is standing only, I think, about 400 to 500 candidates in 8,000 wards, or rather, 400 to 500 candidates in 4,000 wards for 8,000 seats. That's not much. To be honest with you, that's quite poor stuff, really. And there's a lot of missed opportunities, I think, at least. The Reform Party are organised in places like Amber Valley, which is north of Derbyshire and north of Derby, and west of Nottingham. Over here, you got Belper, Ripley, Heanor, Alfreton. That's Amber Valley. And you have Reform, I think, being reasonably organised in Sunderland, which, when you look at that, you can see why. You can see 3 UKIP council wins there, and we know Reform are standing here. But they're not standing there. Why? Well, because the UKIP councillor, the elected UKIP councillor here, has since defected to the Conservatives, and so Reform are giving them a free run. That's quite interesting stuff. So, yes, we're going to be talking about the local elections again, and I just want to go through this in a minute. So, local elections can be pretty dramatic, and sometimes they swing a lot more wildly, than nationally. Okay, so I want to go through this with you here. So, what we have here is national opinion polling. Let's just look at the second row here. This is national opinion polling on or around the day of the local elections, and this is Britain Elect's poll tracker stuff as opposed to select opinion polls. So I take the view it's more accurate than select opinion polls. And what I've also done is an average of select councils: Crawley, Lincoln, Peterborough, Plymouth, Stevenage, Swindon and Tamworth. And this is the popular vote lead over all. And I chose these councils because they are by and large ConLab battlegrounds, with very little in the shape of an insurgency from another party. So, 2018, this was pretty much a virtual repeat of the 2017 general election. All right. So you had the Tories ahead in these Tories ahead nationally by 2 percentage points, and in these select councils, Labour had a slim lead of 1 percentage point. And you can see that there. They just edged ahead of the Tories. Oh, no, sorry. The Tories just edged ahead of Labour in Crawley. Labour had a lead of 11 points in Lincoln. Tory lead of 1 to 2 points in Peterborough. 1 point in Stevenage. Labour lead of 7 in Stevenage. Labour lead of 1 in Swindon. And a Tory lead of 11 in Tamworth. And then you just see the Tory lead expand by 5 points. So from 2018 to 2021, I just want you to focus on that for a minute. The Tory lead was +2 in 2018. It was +7 in 2021. And you just look at that. You see the Tory lead in Tamworth double. You see the Labour lead in Swindon and Stevenage reverse from -7 to +11 for the Tories in Stevenage's case, and -1 to +12 in Swindon's case. This, you can see some pretty dramatic swings here. Sometimes, I think if I'm right in reading this, they can go against the grain. Look at that Peterborough there. You had the Tories ahead of Labour by 1.5 points in 2018, and they actually expanded that lead to 3 points in 2019, even though nationally the polls were moving against the Tories more so than they were moving against Labour. This is the thing. Some councils can swing against the national grain, and by and large, some councils can be absolutely dramatic sorts. Again, look at Lincoln. Labour a lead of 2 points nationally, Labour ahead 19 points in 2019. And then you have the Tories 7 points ahead, and you have that 19-point lead for Labour in Lincoln reversed, completely obliterated by a 12-point lead for the Tories in 2021. And then you have it reversed again by a 12-point Labour lead in 2022. This is where we are. This is dramatic. This is quite excessive, really. But that is what we are up against this year. When you're trying to do a little bit of local election analysis, bear that in mind, because this is quite some, again, to reiterate, dramatic stuff. Now, let's look at the local elections. Just to remind you what is up. You are having most of home counties England up for grabs. You're having the whole of Surrey, most of Berkshire, with the exception of, well, what are these? Little towns and villages on the outskirts of Reading and Bracknell. And, of course, Buckinghamshire is not up for grabs, but you do have Hertfordshire, you do have bits of Essex, you do have Kent, both the Downs and, of course, the coast up for grabs, and you do have Sussex. This is, and Oxfordshire too, this is, if you want to call it Blue Wall England, yeah, the Blue Wall, there will be a referendum in Blue Wall England on May the 4th of the current government. Let's see what happens here. And I've said it before, I do expect to see Lib Dems to do particularly well in certain parts of the country, particularly around here in what is Dacorum Council, Dacorum here, even though if you look at some of this, Lib Dems aren't exactly the clear second place challengers, but in parliamentary constituency terms, the Lib Dems are quite clear, the clear challengers to the Tories here. But in local elections, it seems to be Labour that does particularly well. Now, what should we focus on? Well, first of all, I want to talk about Bracknell Forest. This is a council with new boundaries, so the boundaries up here are new, obviously, redrawn boundaries, and so you can't really compare with previous results. But all you need to know is this, is that the vast majority of the seats here are Conservative represented, which, as you can see on the map, speaks for itself. Only one Labour, one ward outright, and lots to watch out for. But what I want you to pay particular attention to is this. Where there are Labour candidates standing in Bracknell Forest, there are no Lib Dem candidates. Where there are Lib Dem candidates, there are no Labour candidates, and there are no Green candidates. If you were an observer from afar, like I was and still am, you would be looking at Bracknell Forest and you'll be writing this up as this is the place where there has been a quite clear progressive alliance. Labour are not standing where the Lib Dems are standing. The Lib Dems are not standing where the Greens are standing. Pretty much these so-called progressive parties, if you want to call it that, have, it looks like, on the ground, done a deal. But, according to some gentleman on the ground who's got in touch with me, there wasn't a deal. Simple truth is they just didn't have the men and women to stand. They had a bit of a manpower problem down here. So, no willing candidates. So there wasn't an official progressive alliance, but it seems like a progressive alliance by the back door. An accidental alliance, I suppose. So that's what we should expect to see in Bracknell Forest on May the 4th. Let's see how many of these seats vote for alternative parties other than the Conservatives. We're moving here into Windsor and Maidenhead. And I should also let you know this. I'm showing you all human-gathered election results. I've made a few mistakes. If you spot a mistake, please do let me know, because I've just had someone message in to say that I got this seat here in Maidenhead, Pinckney's Green. I got it completely wrong. Until today, this seat was listed as Conservative because I had completely forgotten or completely missed entering the Lib Dem figure. So the Lib Dems got 1,000 and something votes here. I just hadn't entered that. So it was the Tories that had won this seat. That's a human error. It happened. If you spot any others, please do let me know. And I should also like to just give a shout out to activists in Amber Valley, because what we have here are new boundaries, mostly. Some of them are the same boundaries as the old ones, but I classify them as all as new ward boundaries anyway. And what I've tried to do in Amber Valley here is I've tried to sort of provide how this borough would have voted in 2019 on these boundaries. Emphasis on 2019 here. It's not 21, not 22. This is probably how Amber Valley voted in 2019 on these new boundaries. And I've had a few people from Amber Valley get in touch saying, nope, this seat is wrong, that seat is wrong, and thank you for letting me know that, because I don't live there. I just took a sort of I just look at it from a sort of bird's eye view and thinking, okay, so Hina has been cut up in this way. It's probably been, it probably would have voted the same as before, and I got most of it right, though not all. So yeah. My goodness me. What can we talk about today? Oadby and Wigston. This is on the outskirts of Leicester. To be honest with you, I don't know if it should be a council. It's one of the smaller councils in the country, and it is almost entirely Lib Dem represented here. You look at that. So you have Harborough there. You're still in Oadby here. You're still in Oadby, and then you move right into Leicester. And it's been Lib Dem since, I think, what was it? I saw a tweet from Mark Pack. He said it was 1991. Yeah? Yeah, as Pretzel says, it's de facto Leicester, but de jure, it is its own local authority, and it is very, very Lib Dem. Look at these results. 78, 80% for the Lib Dems there. A bit more marginal. Well, it's all relative, isn't it? 48% Lib Dem, Tory 27%. Labour 24%. Just a reminder to those perhaps joining us, these are the results from 2019. These are not forecasts. This is how it voted at the last election. This is what's up for grabs. If you're some budding battleground strategist and you want to find places that perhaps your party should target, this is the place to go. I'll put out a tweet right now just saying you can view the map in full screen without the need for a paywall by checking out twitter.com/BritNLX. The map is available there. You can go have a look now. Now, I've had a few requests about where to look at. Let's see what we've got. Lindsay's, the old kingdom of Lindsay. For those who don't know, Lindsay is not a person. It's two councils. You have here West Lindsay, and then you have East Lindsay, which basically is Skegness all the way to the edges of Nottinghamshire, north of Lincoln. Is this still Lindsay? Yeah, no, yeah, I pretty much got it right. So yeah, it's Skegness, it's Louth, it's Horncastle, it's is it Gainsborough? Yeah, it's Gainsborough as well. And that's pretty much it. Why do you want me to look at this? I don't really know, but I'll tell you this for a fact. A great number of these seats, if you want to know about local council elections, sometimes parties or candidates do not contest certain seats. Why? Because the local parties are not organised, or because, well, it's pretty much that, isn't it? I'm presently, or rather was until recently, a parish councillor on Upton by Chester Parish Council. Most of the parish councils elected there were elected unopposed. Reason being, it's because the party I'm part of wasn't organised enough to get the resources, or rather get the candidates in place. And we are also seeing this in certain areas as well. So in 2019, this ward, Scampton Ward, which is, well, that speaks for itself. It's just villages, isn't it? Or rather little hamlets. This Conservative councillor was elected unopposed, whereas in neighbouring Dunelm and Welton, it was more competitive. Neighbouring Waddingham and Spittal, again, it was just Tory versus Lib Dem. Again, Tory versus Lib Dem. Oh, that's a new ward boundary. Another one, Woldview, which is the Lincolnshire version of Worldview. This Conservative candidate was elected unopposed. As I understand it, if I remember rightly, this borough, or these two boroughs, are seeing more candidates, more Conservative and independent candidates elected unopposed than before. I just can't exactly specify specifically where. But anyway, Skegness has its fair share of a sort of residents association. In 2015, this bit of Skegness, or Skeg Vegas, voted UKIP. Now it's voting for a residents' association, which I dare say maybe a few of the UKIP candidates went over to join. Look at that one as well. Winthorpe Ward also voted UKIP in 15, but Scarborough, which is not to be confused with Scarborough in North Yorkshire, voted for the residents, but voted Conservative in 2015. I don't know what's happening here, this little bug in Croft Ward, but we'll ignore that there. What is going on? Okay, that's odd. But there we go. Yeah, so independents versus Conservatives. What can you expect to see here? It's a bit of Brexit land, isn't it? Quite a heavy Leave vote, although the Leave vote is higher, more so in Boston and South Holland here. Oh, look at that. You can see only a UKIP candidate stood against the Tory here, and Spalding, I think, had. Oh, look at that. Now, this is always what surprises you sometimes. You go to perhaps Brexit land, Brexit Central. You go to Leave land, and you still see high votes for the Greens, because the Greens, to those of us watching this stream here, the Greens might represent a progressive alternative to the Labour Party, but to voters on the ground, to people who are going to the polling station and thinking, okay, I want to send a message to the system, or I want to vote for an alternative party, the Greens aren't seen through that progressive lens by as much as we online activists do, and that does need recognising, at least, perhaps. Although I've said this before, I said this on the New Statesman podcast once. Always bear in mind that it's not going to stay that way. The more popularity, the more seats, the more votes the Greens gain, the more they will need to define themselves, or rather, media coverage will demand them to define themselves in public opinion a little bit more ideologically. It's inevitable. It will come if they want to broaden themselves, but yeah, lots to do there. Look at Boston here. This is what I always find quite interesting. In 2015, this council almost, although didn't, just by I think the skin of its teeth, almost went UKIP. It was the Isle of Thanet Council that did go UKIP, but this didn't. So you can see Fenside Ward and Witham Ward and Stanleyland Ward and a great many other wards went UKIP in 2015. And since then, they've either gone for local independence or they've gone actually to Labour. Look at this Fenside Ward. Labour won it by the skin of their teeth, 24% to the Tories, 22%. And what we saw here, and just for clarification purposes, X1 means another party, a small party. I don't know which one it is. This is just my database. It's an error, basically. But yeah, what happened in Boston in 2015 is UKIP almost won it, and then in 2019, when the UKIP organisation in the local area sort of collapsed, disappeared, even though they still tried putting up candidates, although not everywhere, as you can quite clearly see, the vote kind of splintered. This is the thing, there's always an assumption, isn't there, that the UKIP vote will almost exclusively go to the Tories, but that really depends on the geography. If you're in urban England, if you're in what we, stereotype as Red Wall England, that vote almost exclusively goes to the Conservatives, and you can sort of see that in how the Conservatives swept Stoke-on-Trent and how they swept the Black Country, these types of seats over here. St James's Ward, there was a big UKIP vote, big-ish UKIP vote in 2019, and then immediately after, in 21 and 22, it was Conservative won as the UKIP vote disappeared. But in coastal constituencies, not all coastal constituencies as we saw in Hartlepool, but in places like Boston, in places like Great Yarmouth, in places perhaps like Tendring, which we may see on May the 4th, and of course the Isle of Thanet, the UKIP vote went a bit all over the place. It did sort of go to different parties. So UKIP's strength in Thanet was in Ramsgate. We're talking about Thanet here. UKIP's strength in Thanet was in Ramsgate. They swept the council here. You can see that Nethercourt in 2015 it voted UKIP. In Central Harbour it voted UKIP in 2015. Same in Eastcliff. Same in Sir Moses Montefiore. That's a ward name. Same here in Northwood Ward, but the further you get up, St Peter's and Broadstairs, which convenient enough was the birthplace of Edward Heath, It was the Conservatives who were holding on. Beacon Road there, one of the more northern wards in the council that did vote UKIP. And then you get closer to Margate, you see more UKIP seats. The same here, Cliftonville West. Margate Central held firm for Labour, but Salmston did vote UKIP as well. So where there was UKIP strength in Thanet, there is now Labour strength. But it's not in perpetuity. So you look at Central Harbour Ward here. Labour won it with 35% of the vote in 2019. And the Greens, surprisingly enough, remember this was a UKIP seat with around about 40 to 50% of the vote, if I remember rightly. The Greens get 30% in Central Harbour Ward of Ramsgate on Thanet that previously voted UKIP. And in 2021, which was a bad year for Labour, you see the Greens winning this in a council by-election. As you can see there, previous winners by year, UKIP in 15, Labour in 19, Green in 21. Let's see how this type of ward votes on May the 4th. Will Labour be able to hold its own, or will the Greens, a resurgent Green Party, more active than ever before, will they win Central Harbour, a former UKIP seat, off Labour? Could be quite exciting stuff there. And then you look at this other ward, Eastcliff, also in Ramsgate. Big Green vote there. What's going to happen? This is going to be quite exciting. This is the thing. I always make the point about Thanet. South Thanet specifically, or what is to be, I think, East Thanet, which will be the more built-up urban bits. This is one of those types of seats, or one of those areas that Labour needs to be winning if it wants to get a comfortable majority next year. And you're already shedding support, or already at potential risk of shedding support to the Greens. Not a good sign. What we need to be seeing from Labour is potential gains elsewhere. This is a large ward, Cliffs End and Pegwall. It goes all the way down to, I think, Sandwich, or no, only a little bit. You need to be seeing some more Labour gains here. Is it doable? I'm looking around and I'm not exactly really seeing it, am I? You're seeing quite some split seats. But yeah, and I just wonder if the local Labour Party is as organised as it needs to be. Yeah, you look at that one. It's a straightforward two-way fight. It was a Conservative 67%, Labour 33%. And I don't think we're going to be seeing as many Lab v Con fights. I think the Greens, like I say, and Independents are a lot more organised than they used to be. And that does mean trouble for the Labour Party. I'll give you one such example. We're just going to return to... go up to my own borough, Cheshire West and Chester, for a minute, and I want to focus on this seat here, which is Neston Ward. This was a straight Con Lab fight in 2019, and 62% Labour, 38% Conservative. Now, there was a by-election in 2021 owing to the incumbent councillor sadly dying, and what happened was the Lib Dems stood a candidate, and it disproportionately harmed Labour. So you saw the Labour vote go down by 5 percentage points, and you saw the Tory vote go down by 0.1 percentage points. When you look at straightforward Lab v Con fights, just bear in mind that a lot of that Lab vote, I think it's more so than the Tory vote, a lot of that Lab vote is actually kind of borrowed support. And this is what could be a problem for Labour, which is that where they have fought straightforward Lab v Con fights, not there in Thetford, but elsewhere, can we see any? I'm not sure where they are really, but what we could potentially see is what are on paper as marginal fights between the Tories and Labour will actually be spoiled by the addition of other parties. Understandable, of course, but could be a little bit disappointing for Labour in that regard. But yes, the Isle of Thanet is going to be absolutely interesting. Labour needs to be making gains here. Hard to do when you have the Greens briefing down your necks in Ramsgate. But, yeah, stuff to do here. Just going to be reading some of the comments. Meta Boat Chris, I take it that UKIP will lose the last of the local councillors following this elections. Yes, it is almost certain that UKIP will be losing their last council seats. I don't know. Did they win any last year? No, they didn't win any last year. They didn't win any the year before. Yes, this should perhaps represent the last of their emphasis elected councillors. You have 2 seats won here on the top of the Weir, which is just north of Blackpool. You have them winning Park Ward and Warren with some pretty slim vote shares. Look at that there. Warren Ward being UKIP with 29% of the vote, Labour coming in second with 28%. UKIP winning this one here with 34%, Labour with 32%. It is likely that UKIP will not be able to defend that, if even they've even put candidates up to defend them. This ward is an interesting one because everyone I speak to, or rather people who live there, always say that this was the most right-wing ward in North Lancashire. It did, I think, at one point entertain a BNP councillor in the late 2000s, in the late noughties rather, and in 16, 18 and 19 voted for UKIP candidates. In 21 and 22, however, it voted Conservative, and we should perhaps, if you want to talk about Tory gains, this should be one such seat. Let's see how that turns out. It was a Tory gain from UKIP in 21. It was a Tory gain from UKIP in 22. And in places, and just to return once more to Sunderland, that UKIP seat we saw up here, the UKIP councillor elected is now standing as the Conservative candidate. Yes, I think it's fair to say that we will perhaps see the end of elected UKIP councillors, even though those UKIP councillors have since joined other parties. Can you look at Southend Council? Let's look at Southend, yes. Southend on scene, now a city. Finally, the campaign of the late David Amess has dealt the dividends needed. Southend is... It's, on paper, quite... two constituencies, both of them pretty safe Conservative, but you should expect to see some Labour advancements here. Understandably, with the national opinion polls, look at this ward here, Chalkwell, Conservative 38%, Labour 28%. You should expect to see Labour doing particularly well there. What about this one as well? Prittlewell. An independent could win that, or maybe if the independent stands down, another party could come through. What about Lib Dems? Oh, goodness me. Yeah, 41% there. Conservatives 27%. Belfairs, Conservative 35%, Independent 32%. Oh, yes, you can actually definitely see, just looking at that there, you can see 1, 2, potentially 3 Conservative seats going. And if you go out of Southend a little bit to Shoeburyness, Conservatives lead the pack with 42%, but an Independent close, not close, but 15 points behind with 25% there. It's going to be interesting stuff here in Southend. You should just see further Conservative losses. I don't know how the Independents normally do, but you look at this ward here, look at that St Luke's ward. It was an independent one with 55% in 2019, but since then, the ward has voted Conservative in 21, Labour in 22. Let's see what happens there. I dare say it probably could be a Labour gain, potentially. Yeah, could be interesting stuff there. What about Belfairs? Go a bit further along to Castle Point, which Essex country, UKIP targeted this once upon a time, didn't do particularly well. The local independent group came out to endorse UKIP here, the Canvey Island Independents, and they win always. They almost always win convincingly. The Conservatives have been relegated to the mainland here. Don't know what will happen there. Basildon, could this be interesting? You could, I don't know if you could see Labour losses, but don't be surprised if in Langdon Park here, Labour lose that. Look at that, it's pretty marginal. The Independent helped split the vote. It was a 36% Labour, 33% Conservative, 31% Independent. And since 2019, it has voted reliably Conservative. That could be a Labour loss. Lee Chapel North. It was UKIP once upon a time. Now it is reliably Labour. Going further into Basildon Central. Could be a bit of trouble there for Labour again in St Martin's Ward. This is the thing. These bits of Basildon need to keep voting Labour. You need to be seeing Labour holes here. If we see Tory gains, it's fair to say that Labour is still falling back in certain parts of the country. While not marginal, Basildon is not the margin it used to be. It's not a good sign if you're seeing Labour losses there. Thurrock, meanwhile, used to be a very marginal constituency between the Tories and Labour. It was made more marginal by the arrival of UKIP in 2015. It was like 30-30-30. And then in 2017, as the UKIP vote collapsed, I think it went up to like 45% Conservative, 42% Labour, and give or take. And since then, it's grown more conservative, even though it's grown more diverse ethnically. The demographics have shifted quite a bit. It's grown more diverse here, and on paper, it should be voting more Labour than it is, but it's not. Definitely one to keep an eye on here. You should expect to see some Labour advances. Whether or not it does actually happen, though, is yet to be seen, because once more I do wonder if Labour's banking on the polls here. I don't know if it's going to work for them, but yeah, keep an eye out. South of the river, I've said this, south of the Thames, sorry. Always keep saying this. If you want to be talking about Labour gains in marginal constituencies, or rather seats they need to win in Parliament, they need to be sweeping a fair chunk of this in Dartford, in Gravesham, new boundaries there, and in Old Medway, which is Gillingham, Rainham, Chatham, and Rochester and Strood. Yeah, definitely keep an eye out here. If I could, choose a select few maps, select few parts of the country that you keep an eye on the night, this is one such place. But there are plenty of other places to do it, really. So I think the entire map will be made available for all. You wanna look at Devon? So, what just happened there? Just bear with me. You want to have a look at Devon? Let's see what's happened at Devon. Yes. This is going to be quite fun. Now, let's start with Plymouth. Let's start with the built-up bits, and let's go. Then let's do the countryside that I, a tourist, know relatively well. Plymouth. A lot of news about. Wait a minute, I had this written down somewhere. This is the thing with Plymouth, is there's been a bit of a scandal that has enveloped the Tory-led administration here, and they are likely to suffer as a consequence. I just need to get the numbers up. So where is it? Yes, here we go. Trees are the problem here in Plymouth. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but councils that cut down trees aren't often popular, which is not good, you know. Sheffield Council was. I'll actually show you this. I'm not speaking English well today. Sheffield Council in 2018 got into a lot of controversy over the cutting down of its trees along the main streets, I think. And it was a Labour-led administration. It still is a Labour-led administration. But what I think you saw in 2018 was a bit of a loss for the Labour vote. You notice here, look at this. Gleadless Valley. 2018 Labour held on to this, but 19 onwards, they lost it to the Greens. 2018, this was a loss from Labour to the Greens, and since then it has voted Green, with the exception of 2022. Let's see what happens there next year. Again, also Broomhill and Sharrow Vale, 2018, when the trees were being cut down, a Green gain. City, probably, yeah, this is perhaps the safest bit for Greens in Sheffield. Bloody hell, 63% there. That's quite something. What else we got? Walkley. This is a Green target. Labour held it last year, but they lost it the year before that. Want to keep an eye on here. And it started, I suppose, with the controversy over the Labour Council cutting down certain trees. It captured public imagination. It captured a sort of certain, irritation, anxiety with local, where am I going with this? Local anxieties, local passions about your problems, and as such, the local Labour Council suffered. We should expect to see the same for the Conservatives here. And just to refer more to my notes, yes, the Tories have been cutting down trees, not popular locally. Labour in Sheffield in 2018 did the same. The Lib Dems or residents did the same in Kingston upon Thames in the 1990s. Trees really is pretty much doing this, and we've seen a Tory councillor, Tory leader resign. We've seen a bit of controversy over that, and we should expect to see Labour to make some gains here. And you look at that there, Compton Ward, which has been voting reliably Conservative, voted Labour last year. We should expect to see a Labour gain here this year as well. Not in Eggbuckland though. We haven't seen a Labour gain there last year, but never say never. Perhaps you could see a collapse in the Conservative vote there. Buds Head ward did vote Labour in 2016, but hasn't since. That's interesting. Let's see if it happens again. Southway ward, that looks like a marginal, like a battleground there, even though it's been voting reliably Conservative since. Moorview, it was UKIP at one point, was Labour at one point, but has since been Conservative. Keep an eye out for that. But yes, Plymouth, definitely one to watch. We should expect to see the Tories do badly there. In Exeter, I've been asked to have a look at Exeter. Why? I think there's only one battleground ward here, and it's Topsham ward, isn't it? Which is pretty much, well, it's the ex-Mouth, isn't it? That was Labour last year, but in 2019 it was Conservative 47%, Labour 30%. So that's quite a bit of a jump, isn't it? If we were to assume that seats that were as, 17-point Tory leads will go Labour, at least those seats will go Labour this year, we can expect to see a lot of Labour gains. But to reiterate, just to return to this, not all of England votes uniformly, particularly in council elections. We can be quite dramatic. So, yeah. Got another ward here to watch out for. Oh, look at that again. More candidates elected unopposed in East Devon. And that's just right on the outskirts of Exeter, for goodness sake. What are you doing? That's just silly. This could get interesting. St. Loy's ward, Conservative 48%, Labour 23%. If Labour advance by as much as they did last year in Topsham ward as they did here, as they will here, this seat could become very competitive. Oh, look at this. An independent won this in 2019. Is the independent defending? Was it a disgruntled Labour candidate, as we often see? That'll be interesting. What about the Green? Yeah, this is a Green gain from Labour, most likely. Green 55%, Labour 30%. Don't expect to see that change. Could we see an advance for the Greens anywhere? Ooh, no, perhaps not there in St. Thomas ward. Thank you for some local information there from Teester 97, returning here to Newtown and St. Leonard's ward. The Independent here is standing down. The Independent got 49% of the vote and is endorsing the Greens here over Labour. That's going to be interesting. So maybe Labour could, who are gunning to gain, who would be looking to win this seat back, might not, because the Greens have received the Independent's endorsement and it seems are gunning the seat themselves. Look at that. Once upon a time, that might have been a marginal seat. Dunyard. No, I don't know. Duryard and St. James. It was Lib Dem in 2019. 34% of the vote. Conservative 26%. In 2021, however, it went Labour. Let's see. One to watch out for there, I suppose. Lib Dems will be looking to defend that. Pennsylvania ward. What's this? Thank you again once more for Teester 97. He says the Greens are targeting this seat. You can understand why, even though it's a bit of quite a split ward there. Labour 39%, Conservative 31%, Green 24%, and the Greens are allegedly targeting that. Where are the Lib Dems targeting, did you say? Did you say St. Thomas ward? Yeah. Oh, really? Why would they be targeting that? So it's 2019, it voted Labour 43%, Tory 19%, Greens 18%, and Lib Dem at fourth place 15%. And allegedly the Lib Dems are targeting that. Well, they've done worse places, and they tend to come through. Yeah. What else have we got? Yeah, lots to go through here. This will be quite interesting stuff. Pinho ward. Ooh, that's quite a marginal seat. Labour 38%, Tories 38% as well. Majority of for 0.6 points. A bit of a UKIP vote as well. Could be interesting. Yeah, lots to watch out there for in Exeter. Let's just return though to east of Exeter to what is the Tiverton and Honiton constituency. Now, I made this point during the by-election of last year, which was June of last year. We're already coming up to 1 year since the by-elections in where was it? By-elections in Wakefield and Tiverton and Honiton. We're almost coming up to 1 year since that. Goodness me. And I made the point when I was doing my write-up here, which is that though there isn't much Lib Dem strength in Tiverton and Honiton, voters do seem at least used to voting for independent candidates, as you've seen here. Though it's a new ward boundary, you can at least tell independents tend to do well. And if voters are used to sort of voting for parties other than, the Tories or any other party, then it makes the idea of making another jump to another party all the more possible. This is the point I often make. Perhaps we can attribute this to the success of Britain Predicts, the election model that myself and others built. Britain Predicts bases a great number of seats, or rather the fundamental nature of Britain Predicts is based on how swingy a seat is. If voters are used to voting for more than one party, you can make the assumption that those voters are more swingy. They're more used to, going about, swinging about, okay? And that's why, if you look at Britain Predicts, certain seats that had big UKIP votes before, big Lib Dem votes before, are seeing greater swings now to Labour than other more traditional Conlab marginals, right? And it's broadly been borne out to be true so far in the by-elections we've had, although, of course, that isn't guaranteed to stay so. And by the way, the model does not account for tactical voting. And I made this point when I was writing up Tiverton and Horton. You look at that and you see already voters are getting used to voting for independents. It won't take much for them to go Lib Dem, and this is probably why it was such a damning win for the Lib Dems here. They need to do better. They need to make some proper gains here. They need to establish themselves locally, because if they're not, something's going wrong for them. It was a flash in the pan rejection of Boris Johnson. It can't be that for them. They need to do well here. I do not, however, have any seats to zone in on, because it's all new boundaries, which is a little bit annoying. North Devon could be interesting here. Ilfracombe, ooh, look at that. Con won, but not by much. Conservative 28%, Independent 23%, Lib Dem 20%. That's going to be interesting stuff. Yeah, they need to be seeing some gains here. This is the problem with places like Devon, Cornwall, Somerset, and others. They voted Leave in 2016 pretty substantially. Okay, and in 2021. Lib Dems didn't do well in Cornwall. And I made the point. I was asking actually local activists down there and organisers, like, why are you doing badly? And they say, our activist base is sort of dried up and we can't really break through with these Leave voters. And I was wondering, okay, fair enough, that does make sense. But why are you breaking through in Somerset? Why did you win Tiverton and Honiton? Why did you win North Shropshire? What are you doing wrong in Cornwall that you are doing right in Tiverton, right in Somerset, which you, by the way, you gained control of the council of, and North Shropshire? I've just been told off for how I pronounced this. So it's not Ilfracombe, it's Ilfracombe. Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough then. Yeah, right, there we go. But anyway, in Ilfracombe, bit of a challenge there for the Tories. Lib Dems might take that seat. What about in Barnstaple? Ooh, green gain here. I went to Barnstaple in... is it Ilfracombe? What is it? I don't know how it's pronounced. It's not Ilfracombe. Okay. Anyway, in Barnstaple, here in North Devon, went here on holiday and got very, very soaked back in June. I was passing through Tiverton and Honiton. I stayed here for a bit, and another surprising green gain per... Oh, Ilfracombe is a troll. Oh, it's Ilfracombe. Come on, it's Ilfracombe. Okay. Sorry, for the uninitiated, the comments section of the Britain Elects Twitch channel are trying to convince me Ilfracombe is spelt a different way. Okay, but there we go. Anyway, in Barnstaple, surprise green win here. They'll probably expect to hold that. This is the thing. When I was in Barnstaple, I got the impression it felt a little bit like Knaresborough back up in North Yorkshire for me. And for those who don't know, Knaresborough is a bit of a... this is where I'm from, myself, in North Yorkshire. Knaresborough's a bit of a dormitory town, I suppose, a bit of a retirement town. It's where, I'm not saying it's affluent, I'm not saying it's necessarily deprived, but it's a resting place, I suppose. Resting place? Really, Ben? Yeah, I'll go with that. A bit of a resting place. And you're seeing green wins there. This isn't progressive England. This isn't, pink-haired, socks and sandals wearing Enlightenment England. This is coastal England, and it's voting for green candidates. If you're looking, if you have a stereotype about a Green voter in local elections, you are very much wrong, my friend. You don't have a clue what the stereotypical Green voter in local elections is, because they are not that. It's perhaps one of the more broader voter coalitions that we've ever seen. So, food for thought. But yes, rest of Devon, what have we got to watch out for here? Independents. Look at the Independents winning. They're only winning by 24%. Although they win by 57% here. The Labour win was pretty narrow. Bideford South, 27% of the vote there. Bideford North, another Green win, 32%. You know, first past the post, eh? When you have multiple parties and they're all competitive, you are stuffed. But yes, what about Torquay or Torbay? What's happening here? Lib Dems, are they going to come back? Well, they've got a bit of strength here, but actually... Oh, okay, fair enough. It doesn't seem particularly strong, this Lib Dem strength in what was their Torbay constituency. It seemed to have been a bit in the doldrums. I suspect the collapse came in 2015, 2011, and they haven't really recovered since. But... again, this is the future of the Lib Dems, isn't it? They're not necessarily going to return to the seats they won in 1997. They rather, I think at least, need to be breaking new ground in places in Surrey, in Oxfordshire, in Hertfordshire, as you can quite clearly see there, and Cambridgeshire as well, which is regrettably not up for grabs. By the way, I've made an error here. This is the 2019 result when it should be a different year. Made a mistake there. But, yeah. Oh, Ice Cream Melt asks a question. How are the Tories doing in Plymouth now, especially since they're in deep shit locally now? Yeah, I don't know if you heard it before. I mentioned that, what did I mention? Trees. Trees, basically. The Tories are getting into a lot of deep issues with the local press, with the local parties, over cutting down trees, which voters allegedly do not like, and we should expect to see some Tory losses, particularly Compton Ward here. Buckland could be a bit of a reach, but what about Budshead, which did vote Labour in 16? What about that ward as well, Southway? Maybe, I don't want to say a wipeout of all the Tory seats up for grabs this year, but you're getting close to it when you consider you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, is this also in Plymouth? Yep, 6 and 7 Tory seats up for grabs. They may hold on in Plympton. Oh, actually, and they... Oh, yeah, I completely don't know where Plymouth boundaries extend to. But yes, they may hold on to outside Plymouth proper, but they may lose inside, you know, the actual proper Plymouth area. But anyway, yes, where else shall we have a look at? Let's stop talking about Ilfracombe, please. Yeah, let's go back to Surrey, I suppose. Or rather, Southampton. Southampton's interesting because the TUSC, Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition, often like to stand a full slate of candidates. If you want to know where the TUSC are organised, I would say almost nowhere, or rather nowhere, and with the exception of Southampton. They often stand a full slate of candidates here, and Southampton, I think, if I remember rightly, was 1 year where a TUSC candidate standing made the difference between who won the seat, and I think it was this seat here, Bassett. I'm not sure where, actually. Don't quote me on this. All I know is this, is that Southampton is normally Convy Lab, and it's often just straight fights. But the TUSC put up candidates. The Conservative candidate, I think, in one seat got like 700 votes. Labour got 660, and the TUSC got like 50 votes. You know, most of those TUSC votes would have gone Labour, and yeah, you can read into that yourself, really. And it's one of those rare cases where they put up candidates and they seem to actually, for once in their lives, have an effect on things. But yes, we should expect to see Labour doing particularly well here in Southampton, as Orcs Slayer said on twitch.tv/BritAndAlex. Labour did particularly well here in Southampton last year. We should expect to see them make gains again. Both, I don't know which one's the Test or Itchin River, but we should expect to see them make gains closer to Hedge End and Eastleigh here at least.
Portsmouth, meanwhile, is going to, as I said in last week's recording, is going to be a complete and utter bun fight. You have the Lib Dems targeting Labour seats. You have Labour targeting Lib Dem seats and Tory seats. You have independents trying to defend their own seats here. Charles Dickens Ward, the Labour candidate, has been deselected and is so standing as an independent. You have, I think it's this ward here, Labour targeting here, which is quite a bit of a reach. And you have the Lib Dems targeting here in Eastney and Craneswater. And I think the Lib Dems are targeting St Jude ward. Not sure. But yes, it's a complete and utter chaotic struggle. And I cannot wait to see it be borne out after May the 4th. It's going to be very exciting there. I've been asked to have a look at. I've been asked a few questions. Let me just see if I can rack my brains. Where did they ask? Where do they want to have a look at? Kirklees. Yeah, let's talk about the Pennines. I watched Happy Valley a few months ago. Yeah, it made me very nostalgic for home, actually. Even though myself, I'm from Harrogate, but at least northwest Yorkshire, Otley, Horsforth, Headingley, and so used to be where I used to hang about with my grandmother. So Happy Valley slightly did make me a little bit nostalgic for home, and let's talk about it. Yes, but Hebden Bridge is, I think, what is this? Is this one of the more LGBT wards in the north of England? Which is completely unexpected if you don't know the local area. Hebden Bridge being a very progressive part of the world, and you can see that there. Labour plus Green equals 70-something%. Yeah, that speaks for itself. But yes, what should we expect here in Kirklees and not Bradford? Is it Calder Valley? Yes, it's Calder Valley. There isn't necessarily much for the Labour to gain, with the exception of perhaps of Denby Dale here, which I say I'm very well aware. I've been told many times by one of the councillors for Denby Dale, this should be a Labour gain. They're hoping to win this, and they probably will win this quite convincingly. And if you consider that, Labour behind by 10 points, 9 points in 2019, if they expect to win this quite convincingly, what does that mean for seats elsewhere? But yes, in 2019 it was Conservative 42%, Labour 32%. That probably will be a Labour gain. What about Kirkburton next door? Greens seem to be targeting that, and they probably will win it. Wakefield Rural over in Wakefield. Is this the seat, if I remember rightly, where the... I don't think Labour are putting in a bit of a showing here, as far as I'm aware. And I don't think they necessarily will win it, but they might just, by default. I don't think they're putting in an effort, though. But yes, don't forget that not all UKIP votes go Tory, some go Labour. You're right, yeah, I agree, and I made this point earlier. On coastal constituencies, they split, in Thanet at least, in Boston at least, as much as 50-50. Labour Tory. But in more urban areas, places like Nuneaton, Bedworth, maybe Accrington, maybe Burnley, they tend to go very much more in the favour of the Tories than they do Labour. It really depends on what kind of UKIP vote you're talking about. They're not just one single body of voters. They're a bit of everybody, aren't they? So there's that. But yeah, no, this is Kirklees. Aren't the Greens challenging some bits around here? They've struck gold in this bit of Huddersfield. What about neighbouring bits? No, doesn't seem to be it. Labour seem to be pretty okay there. What about this Lib Dem seat here? Tories won it in 21. That could be interesting. Maybe we're seeing a bit of a decline in the Lib Dem vote there since. Could be interesting. Lindley Ward again, a bit of a Tory Lib Dem marginal here. Golka, is it Golka? I'm not going to pronounce that. It was Lib Dem 42%, Labour 28% in 2019. It's been Labour since. That could be interesting. What about this one? Greetland and Stainland. Okay, right. Love this country sometimes. I have a dirty mind, but there we go. So it was Tory in 2015, with the national picture being a Tory majority, and has since gone Lib Dem. Not really much to say there. In Ripponden, or what is Ryburn, it is an independent held seat in 2019, but has since gone Tory. Maybe we could expect to see a Tory gain there. I wonder how well that'll turn out to be. Over here in... Wait a minute, where are we? Calderdale, yeah, that's what it is, Calderdale. It also includes Halifax. Yeah, bits of the old Batley and Spenborough constituency. Queensbury ward in Bradford could be a Labour gain there. Look at that, 32% Tory, 27% Labour, but staying in Calderdale for a bit. Yeah, bit of a hard ask here for Labour to make any gains. What about Cleckheaton? Cleckheaton, if I remember rightly, Labour knew they were losing support in Batley to George Galloway in the 2021 by-election. And what they did is they reached out to the Spenborough Valley and just started knocking doors, knocking places they hadn't knocked for about a decade. And Cleckheaton was one of those places. What is basically, you have Batley over here, but you will then have the Spenborough Valley, and Cleckheaton is one such place. And I think Labour did very well in the by-election here. Whether that translates to local election success, though, is yet to be seen. Not sure. Don't think it'll work out, but want to keep an eye on. Brighouse, unlikely to change hands. Yeah, this is all quite interesting, really. I wonder how this will turn out. Been asked to have a look at Herefordshire. Herefordshire is a bit like East Lindsey, West Lindsey. A lot of candidates here elected unopposed, and those that are competitive, or rather are at least races, they're quite clearly two-way fights. It speaks for itself. It's countryside England. This is what you should expect, really. Herefordshire, we should expect to see the Greens do a little bit better here. You look at this, Leicester. Leicester North and Rural, it was Tory, 64%, Green, 36%. If there's no other candidate standing, Greens should be gunning for that, because they have had history in Leicester. They were winning this long before their recent surge in council victories, at least. Hereford, what's going to happen here? That's interesting. Redhill. This is the thing, right? I don't know if you ever wonder what I get up to when I'm alone or whatever. Well, there's a variety of things I do, but there are times when I'm just looking at this map and I'm going through different wards and I'm thinking, that's interesting. And yeah, Hereford is one of those interesting places. It's a cathedral city. A local other party won this. I'm not sure what it is. It just could be a local independent group miscategorized. Yeah. Maybe with the national numbers, Tories could expect to see some big losses here. What can I say? That's going to be interesting stuff. Independent groups, organised ones, seem to make some wins at least. Green should expect to make gains, but if you're wanting to look for some big green gains in countryside England, look no further than mid-Suffolk. Look at all of this. Massive wins. 72% there in Mendlesham. 80% in Huffley, Stow Upland and Weatherden. Bacton, 65% green. Gislingham, 49% green. And again, once more, this isn't Progressive England voting. This is Leave Voting England voting, and they're voting in Greens with convincing numbers. DJ Palmer says, my friend is standing in a green in Palgrave. Where's Palgrave? Don't know. Yeah. Bramford Ward. Where's Bramford Ward? I wish we could do a search. If we could find out where we could, we could find the seat name. I wonder if this is a feature in the map I'm using. I'm going to try and see if I can get that working in the run-up to election day, or rather election results map. It's the northwest of Ipswich. Bramford. Where is that? Oh, well, Bramford is also in Mid-Suffolk Council, but it was Tory versus Lib Dem in 2019, and look at that. It was 58% Tory, 42% Lib Dem. I wonder if a Green stands there, what will happen? But yeah, I make this point in my write-up, my first write-up of the local elections, which is this. It is not unreasonable to expect the Greens to lose Brighton or be relegated to opposition status in Brighton, but to gain control of Suffolk. That will ruin some narratives, it will ruin some stereotypes we have of Green voters, but it's completely justifiable. And I make this point about Brighton because, as I understand it, the Labour Party here in Brighton are very bullish. They have perhaps more data than perhaps more data than any other seat I've been made aware of. They really are gunning for Tory voters here, and the types of Tory voters living in Brighton and Hove are the types that have since 2019 departed the Conservatives to Labour in greatest number. Now you're seeing transfers. You're seeing Tory voters go from Tory to apathy. You're seeing Tory voters go from Tory to Reform. You're seeing Tory voters go from Tory to Labour and to the Lib Dems. And the types of voters who are going from Tory to Labour are more likely to be women than men, are more likely to have some semblance of progressive view, or more progressive than the median voter, tend to be pretty affluent and comfortable, and by and large are commuters. You know, the kind of working people who commute a lot, motorists and train users and all that type. That is a very broad demographic summary, but that is where Labour is making its gains most, in commuter England. So keep an eye out for Stevenage, for Swindon, for Rugby. In Cheshire West, I recommend you keep an eye on the Frodsham little town there. That is where Labour is very much gunning for a gain there, and they probably might actually strike through and win it. And Brighton is one of those such place. And I think they probably might make some pretty big gains. Whether or not it will happen, though, because they're bullish on the ground, maybe they're targeting only certain seats, but let's see how that turns out there. Whether or not the Greens will lose seats here is yet to be seen. They have been running the council here for quite a while. They've been running it since 2019, I think, or I'm not sure. They've been running it recently, I know that. They ran it as a majority from 2011 to 15, got hammered in the polls a bit in the 2015 local elections. Labour took back control then. It became a bit more of a fine-run thing in 2019. And then since then, I think the Greens have regained control over, Labour losses in terms of Labour group losses and other such things. So, yeah. Brighton, don't be surprised if the Greens lose largest party status and get relegated to opposition. And don't be surprised if at the same time the Greens take control of Mid-Suffolk. Going to be exciting stuff, that. Where else are we going to have a look at? I'm conscious of the fact that I have been doing this for an hour and a half. I did say I would only be doing this for an hour, but Darlington. Let's have a look at Darlington. The site, the home. Is it the home or is it Stockton-on-Tees? Where's the home of the Parmo? Darlington or Stockton? Don't know. It's Teesside. It doesn't matter. But yes. Darlington, you should expect to see some big Labour comeback, or rather Labour needs to be coming back in Darlington. They lost it to the Conservatives in the 2019 general election, and the local elections speak for themselves. Stevenson ward here, look at that. You see a bit of a split progressive vote, a split left vote, a split whatever vote. And the Tories coming through the middle with 46, or rather not coming through the middle, but, winning quite convincingly with 46% of the vote to Labour's 31% and the Greens 24%. Harrogate Hill, Conservative 33%, Labour 31%. If that is not a Labour gain, I will be very disappointed. Brenkburn and Faverdale, Conservative 42%, Labour 29%. What about this? College Ward, I think this was a gain. Yes, this was a gain from the Conservatives. That's probably will stay that way. But again, what type of voter lives here? Because I don't think Darlington is a student area, is it? Oh, Airedale, thanks for the local information. The Greens are targeting Harrogate Hill very heavily, even though Labour was 31%, 2 points behind the Tories. This is going to be very interesting. The Greens are new players on the local election block, and they're going to be spoiling a few Labour targets, aren't they? Which is going to be very interesting. Let's see how that turns out. Stockton-on-Tees, which is a bit more Labour, but you are seeing Labour losses there. Norton West voted Labour in 2015 when the Tory majority was declared nationally in 2015 and has since gone Tory. But look at that. That is very much a UKIP vote there. Perhaps taking more Labour votes than Tory votes, I suspect. Who knows? What about this one as well? Oh, Heartburn. Heartburn. That's nice. Yeah. 69% Tory. Heartburn ward. That's very good. Pretzel asks, are Labour spoiling Green targets? Exactly. Yeah, but when you compare against 2019, it's that clearly has to be a Labour target. If it's not, they're doing something very badly, aren't they? But yeah. Oh, Harrogate Hill, there was a housing development which Greens are running with. Why are they in support of the housing development or opposed? But yeah. Let's hope this ward doesn't give anyone heartburn. Yes. Eagles Cliff. Again, a bit of an ask for whoever's challenging there, Lib Dems or Labour. Ingleberry Barwick East. Just such great names, isn't it? You can tell there's some Norse influences there. Stainton and Thornton, no, not really. Bit of a difficult there. It's more independence, I suppose, that Labour could be challenging with here on Stockton-on-Tees. Yeah, a bit more split wards when an independent runs. Yeah, look at that on Mandale and Victoria. Residents Association, 57%. Labour, 36%. Let's see how that turns out. But yes, just to reiterate, Middlesbrough, we should expect to see a bit of a bonfire of independence here. They have local press have been covering their determination to get the Mayoral Development Corporation, hive off community assets and planning powers to this new corporation, has been met with opposition by the local press, by local councillors. And we should expect to see the independents to suffer as a consequence. Labour perhaps should be bullish, but whether or not they're organised enough is yet to be seen. Redcar and Cleveland, which is North Yorkshire, but thank you, Ted Heath, it's not. Lib Dems. Are they still active here? Let's see if they are. This could be very interesting. Let's see what happens here. Independents 34%, Labour 26 there, that could be interesting. Independent 45 to Labour's 30, could be interesting. What about these Tory seats? Longbeck, independents could challenge there. Where's the UKIP one? Yeah, Kirkleatham, Labour in 2015. There was a bit of a three-way split there. Yeah. Yes, you're right. Stevie Bond says Redcar, one of the few places which has had three major parties representing it over the years. Can you name the other place in the north of England that has had the three main parties representing it? Either in Parliament, no, actually, only in Parliament. Yep, you've got it. Ice Cream Melt has got it. It is Burnley, and let's just go over to Burnley there, which I think is getting more interesting politically, because Burnley, site of the 2001 riots, and this, if you want to talk about, split ethnicities, it's more Briarfield and Nelson, which is very, very Asian, whereas south of Burnley, Burnley Wood is very white, and it's sort of stayed that way. There has been, at least according to people I meet on the ground, who say there hasn't been exactly much mixing even since the riots there. And very strong Labour vote there. But since elsewhere, you're seeing Lib Dems win Rosehill with Burnley Wood. It was a Labour gain in a by-election, I think, back in October. A bit more split wards there. Lib Dems winning this 30% to an independent's 28%. Green in Trinity, which is... There's a university here. Is it UCLan? Is it University of Central Lancashire who have a college here, or a university? I can't remember. But this is the thing with the Greens. Where you see more built-up bits, do not be surprised if the Greens strike through and win the central ward. Although I have to say, just going over to my own seat that I'm challenging in, I'm standing in Chester City in the Garden Quarter, this ward here, and I was expecting about a year ago when I got selected, I've been door knocking in the ward for the past 2 and a bit years. 1.5 years, closer to 2 years when lockdown ended. And I was expected to see some big support for the Greens, particularly in the student areas, and there hasn't been. Which really surprised me there. I would expect the Greens to walk in here and at least try something, but they haven't. And this is Chester City Centre. But there we go, it never really happened. But I'm expecting in urban areas, the more central wards where it's disproportionately student, where it is hard to canvass students, at least the Greens to do better. But in certain areas they are, in certain areas they're not. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, Burnley, one of the few seats to be represented by 3 parties or more. It was Labour in 2015 and 17. It was Lib Dem in 2010, and it was Tory, represented by the MP Anthony Higginbotham, in 2019. So yeah, that's quite interesting. It's going to be very exciting there. Let's see what happens here. Will Labour make any expand? Would expand in Pendle? Maybe not there. Lib Dem seem to be targeting it. Oh, what about there? Could be exciting for Labour. Lib Dems should be bullish about making some gains again. Let's not forget the Tories are down in the polls by quite some significant margins. Whether that will bear out in local election votes is, though, yet to be seen. I've got too much to go through. There's too many requests here. Southport's going to be interesting. The current constituency pretty much is Southport. Where you see the urban bits, that's the parliamentary constituency of Southport. However, the boundary changes means it will take in areas like Hesketh Bank, and I think goes as far as the edges of, not Preston, but, goes a little bit further up here. But anyway, it was one of the rare seats in the countries in 2015, 17 and 19, even though Labour's vote share went down nationally. It was one of those rare seats to see the Labour vote share go up, and go up quite substantially in 2019. And what happened was the Lib Dem vote, which was it John Pugh? Was that the name of the Lib Dem MP there? Here, the remnant Lib Dem vote has been moving to Labour in general elections since then. But it doesn't seem, to be moving Labour's way in local elections. You see Labour winning these outskirt seats, but not in Duke's Ward there. Look at that, Lib Dem 49%. Tories in second with 23%. Another one, Cambridge Ward here. So they've held on in local elections, but nationally, in general elections, that Lib Dem vote has almost exclusively gone Labour, but not by enough to guarantee a Labour win. That's interesting. And what would be interesting to watch out for is, do we see Labour's vote advance in these local elections when they are so far ahead nationally in the opinion polls? Going to be interesting stuff. But just bear in mind, the parliamentary constituency boundary review changed the Southport constituency from this to something a bit more like that, which has annoyed most Southportians, really? Okay. I've made some errors in Liverpool notionals, but we'll ignore that. There's plenty more to go through. Yeah. As the ice cream melt summarises for me, new Southport boundaries look stupidly ugly. I agree completely. High Peak is one of those boroughs or one of those council areas where we need to start seeing Labour gains. High Peak was one of those few Labour gains in 2017. How many Labour gains were there? 30 something Labour gains, and High Peak was one of them. We need to see Labour start solidifying their support here if they want to be guaranteed a majority at the next general election. It's a simple request. You should be doing this. If you're not, you're doing something very wrong. Old Glossop. Ooh, Old Glossop. And I found out, by the way, you may notice at the boundaries here, let me just get rid of the tooltip. You may notice that the boundaries around Glossop is very circular. That is because outside of Glossop, which really hampers planning a little bit, area of outstanding natural beauty, AONB. These boundaries, yeah. So that's why it's so circular, because outside of it, it's an AONB. I went to the Peak District here on Good Friday to go climb Mam Tor in Eder, which wasn't really worth climbing. It was just a hill. I could have done better, but there we go. And that votes Green quite convincingly, or rather, okay, not convincingly. I'll take my words back there. 45% Green there, Tory 42%. Again, this is more a rural part of the world where respect for the local area, respect for the environment is very high priority. But yes, you do need to be seeing Labour gains here. Set Ward, look at that. It's a 5 point Tory majority. Yeah, you need to be seeing Labour winning it. But then again, you see a 20% vote for the Greens. They need to be squeezing that. They need to be reaching out to them. Another one, Hayfield Ward. What else we got? St John's, I suppose. A bit of a reach there, but it's not impossible. But in Glossop proper, particularly in Old Glossop here, Tory 30%, Labour 28%, and Green 23%. What if the Greens try to compete for it as well? This is something to keep an eye on in the future. But yes, need to be seeing Labour gains in High Peak. If not, they're doing something very, very wrong. What else are we going to be having a look at here? Yes, it's a complete and utter state local election system in the UK. You may know, just to reiterate, we have 25,000 candidates for 8,000 seats in 4,000 wards, and that's most of urban England, most of home counties England. The so-called Red Wall boroughs that make up the surrounds of Greater Manchester and West Yorkshire are also up for grabs. Warrington and St Helens are staying at home, as are Shropshire, Wales, Northamptonshire, Cambridgeshire, Buckinghamshire, Greater London, Wiltshire, Somerset, Dorset, or most of Dorset. Yeah, this is the thing with local elections. It's a state, but it's absolutely a joy to cover. Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole is now one council. There used to be three. Very small ones. Well, very small. Yeah, they were district councils under Dorset, weren't they? Now they're one local authority, and I spoke about this last week, and I'm just going to repeat it probably as the closing piece of coverage. They're broke. This is in my notes. This council is broke. Multiple allegations of misconduct, corruption, the full works. The police have been involved, and that's been going on for the past year and a bit. The Tory administration is set to be hit hard. Auditors have strongly criticised the administration's financial management. Lib Dems should be the primary beneficiaries, though expect some big Labour gains. Too little sign they're active on the ground, however. Yes, you look at this. The two Labour wins were pretty narrow, pretty marginal. Labour winning this ward with 26% and winning this one with 25%. And you expect Labour to break through with all these other seats? Bit of an ask. I'll be honest with you, that is quite the ask, and I don't know if you're going to be seeing it. We should expect, nevertheless, to see some Labour gains, though, because according to Britain Predicts, and according to general election results, there is a quite significant Labour vote here. It's a bit similar to Worthing, and a bit like maybe Great Yarmouth. Well, not really Great Yarmouth. Worthing, a bit of demographic change, population change has seen the Labour vote rise a bit, and changing attitudes among certain voters. Swansea Carl says BCP was won by a Lib Dem Indie Lab coalition, then the Tories took over by a vote of confidence. Okay, thank you for that. But Bournemouth, there is quite a strong Labour vote here. It did still vote Tory in 1997. I don't think it voted Labour, because again, once more, we are seeing the political geography of this country change every single decade, for example. So if I could give one such example here, Kings Lynn in Norfolk here. You see that town there? Kings Lynn, this is in Kings Lynn and West Norfolk Council. In 1997, this constituency, or rather this large seat, which went all the way as high as Hunstanton, this voted Labour in 1997. And according to current election forecasts, even if there's a large Labour majority, it wouldn't still. Votes have moved. People have changed. You're seeing a demographic shift and a bit of a challenge there for Labour to make gains. But I want to have a look at, I suppose, if you want to look at 97 Labour gains. But yeah, no, Bournemouth didn't vote Labour in 97. But we might see it in 24. Who knows? But it doesn't seem to be replicated, doesn't seem to be reflected, at least, in local council elections. Lib Dems, oh my God, look at that. Tories, 26%. This is Kinson ward. Tories, 26%. Labour, 19%. Independents, 16%. UKIP, 16%. That's just very multicoloured, isn't it? It's like a barcode, the stacked bar chart I've done there. Another one as well. Lib Dems should be gunning for some of this, particularly around Poole. Bournemouth should be more Labour leaning, but it's a hard ask. Yeah. I'll keep the stream under an hour and a half ago. Yeah, I know. And I meant to go out as well. I've got a meeting I've got to go to that I was meant to go to an hour ago, but there we go. But anyway, yes, Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. The Tories are set to be hit hard over financial mismanagement, allegations of corruption. The police have been called in. It's a total and utter state. And the Lib Dems, Labour, Independents, Greens, everyone are absolutely licking their lips for gains. So yeah, that's going to be quite exciting. Where else should we have a look at? No, that's it. I've had enough. No, any chance for Dudley if there's time? Hasn't been. Dudley. Okay, right. Dudley is in the Black Country, as some people may know. The Black Country is Bromwich, Sandwell, Walsall, Wolverhampton, and of course Dudley and Stourbridge. Oh no, Stourbridge is part of Dudley as well, isn't it? 2019 was okay for Labour in the Black Country. But if you look at some of these seats, you'll notice St James's ward here, since 2019, has been voting Tory. 21, this was really, really bad. bad year for Labour in the Black Country 2021. You look at that as well. Another ward went Tory, but in 2019 they mostly held firm for Labour. I don't know what to say here. This is the thing. I don't know how strong the Labour vote has recovered, how much the Labour vote has recovered since 2019, since the general election, since 21 here, and in Wolverhampton, in Walsall, Bloxwich, and so on and so forth. Don't know. It could be quite a bit of could be troublesome for Labour here, because once more, our political geography has changed. Though Labour is winning back Leave voters, if I remember rightly, they don't have as many as they did in 2017. That's the thing. You've got to bear that in mind. And Dudley, the Black Country, Sandwell, Wolverhampton is Leave voter central, or rather urban Leave voter central. So yes, we did see a bit of a Labour recovery last year, but we also were seeing still Labour losses. You look at Briery Hill, Labour lost that in 21. They won it again in 22. Same with Neverton, Woodside, but St James's Ward, they lost it in 21 and 22. And again, look, big UKIP vote there in urban England. And just to reiterate, in urban England, the UKIP vote disproportionately goes Tory. But in coastal England, coastal urban England, it tends to split a bit differently. It tends to give and go sometimes more Labour than Tory. It depends where you live. Depends on who it is. Depends on what type of UKIP voter they are. They aren't one big body of supporters. They're quite diverse in a completely undiverse way. But yes, Dudley is going to be interesting. If you want to talk about Labour pains, it is one such place to keep an eye on. There's plenty more to talk about, but I've had enough. I've got to go outside. I've got to get my 10,000 steps. I've got leaflets to deliver. I've got an all manner of stuff to do, and this probably might be it. So yes, we are 2 weeks and 4 days. Is it 2 weeks and 4 days? 2 weeks and 4 days until the local elections, the 4th of May local elections, which are going to be absolutely exciting and going to potentially kill me. So my plan on election day is to actually sleep until about 12 p.m, 1 p.m, 2 p.m, 3 p.m, and then from there until the close of poll, I'm going to do my candidate duties, getting the vote out. I'm in a multi-member ward, so my other two candidates, we get on like a house on fire. We'll be doing their bit as well. And then from about 10 p.m. till the early hours, I'm going to be doing local, there'll be results coming in. There'll be Sunderland, you'll have Thurrock bits, you'll have Basildon, you'll have, is Nuneaton up? I think Nuneaton is up. And you have a whole host of other councils that are just going to be absolutely exciting to keep an eye on here. But yeah, so I'll be doing that over the evening, and then from about 7 a.m. on Friday to about 11 a.m. I'll be getting some sleep. I've got my friend Dale Taylor, who is sort of my chief mouser at Britain Elects Towers, to help out, who'll be doing results during a bit of the day while I'm trying to get some sleep. What else are we doing? But yeah, and then from about 11 a.m. till about midday, I'll be going to Ellesmere Port for the count. And then probably about 1 p.m, 2 p.m, my result will be declared. And immediately after that, I'll be going back to doing more results. So, yeah, Dale is finally doing some work for Britain Elects. Can't wait. But there we go. But yes, I may, this is the thing, there's a lot to put in. I may actually do a call out for help, really, and you'll be paid for it, but yet to be decided, it's still in the works. I'm working out what I need help doing. But yeah, but there we go. No, look, I hope you've enjoyed this. There's still a lot more to look at, as Stevie Bond says. If you want to get your requests for what I should be looking at, tell me on Twitter. Don't at Britain Elects, because I don't look at notifications there. There's too much abuse sometimes. Do at me personally, at BNHWalker on twitter.com, and tell me what you want to look at. Tell me what I could be doing better, because I'm trying to... Because the first one we did was 2.5 hours. But this is also 2.5 hours. But look, well, it's 2 hours now, really. But yeah, we're trying to keep these simple, straightforward, so you can understand them, whether you understand local elections or not. You're a nerd. You're watching this. You are a damn nerd. And I'm delighted to host you. So there we go. But no, thank you very much for watching. I will be back at it again at 4 p.m. next week on the 23rd of April. Thank you very much for watching. My name has been Ben Walker. This has been Britain Elects. I'm now going out to get some steps. So, thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next time.